Hello and welcome back to the next in our sequence of videos dealing with the Italian slide sword as taught by Dall'Agocchie. It's actually been a while since I've done one of these because we've had Christmas in the middle of it all, so hopefully it'll all come back to me as we go. So really, there's one omission that I have made from this sequence, so I'm planning to correct that tonight, and that is looking at a very specific move called a stramazzone. Not a squalembrato, stramazzone. I will get the words right. And we saw this when we were looking at the walking in guards, where we started off with this sequence, and then we had this move here, which is just a circle on the outside. And we said to really ignore it, we'd come back to it later. This is us coming back to it later. So the important thing about a stramazzone is that it is... Okay, let's look at it another way. Every attack I do is actually a circle, or as we call it, a moulinet, which is a defense and an attack. So, for example, if an attack was to come into my side here, I have a circle that goes through this attack, circles around, and delivers my attack back. So every circle I make is a block and an attack. And the other thing you'll notice, if this attack comes back in again, that movement has been made with my whole arm, so it is relatively slow, but it's delivered with power. The idea of a stramazzone is that I'm only going to make that movement from the wrist. So if that same attack was to come in, there's my block very quickly round into my attack because I'm only moving from my wrist. So it's faster, but that doesn't necessarily mean better because it's also a lot weaker. So if I was coming in against maybe a longs or even a two-handed strike with this, and I try and stramazzone against it, I'm still going to die. So I've got to be very clear of when I use this. It's faster, but it is weaker. But that does mean it's greater specifically against things like thrusts. So say you were to come in with me with a staccata, so we're coming in here, and what I've been looking at is, as the staccata comes in, I can very quickly roll that round and get that strike on my hand. Strike on the hand there. Again. Once more. So I'm able to do that very quickly. The other time this really comes into its own is when my opponent has a habit of letting their hand wander over towards the centre line. I suddenly have this exposed bit of arm. Now if I just, from my guard, throw this forward and slap it off it, which sadly you will see in many tournaments, this is 90% of the tactics, it's more a modern sabre where I'm looking to chop. But what I really need to do is slice with this weapon. Yeah? It's a finesse weapon. It's like a vegetable knife rather than a chopper. I need to slide across to do the damage. So by doing that moulinet, I'm actually putting that movement that I need into my blade, rather than just bouncing off the top of his hand. Which in reality, if he's wearing a decent glove, and this is a sharp sword, I'm likely to bounce off and do no damage. But if I hit and slide, whether I slide this way or slide this way, that is opening up and he is bleeding. So that's good as well. So one option, thrusts are very good for, they're very good for picking off the hand. The final one is combining them with one of our basic defences. So we looked at a basic defence fairly early on, so if an attack was coming in, I can void. Yeah? Backwards, and then as I come forward, we looked at striking my opponent again. This gives me the option to deliver that strike, that stramazzone, as I do the void. So as the attack comes in, I slip out the way and cut his hand as it goes past. Again. And then I can come forward with the second one at the head or the body or whatever target is presented. So it's a vitally important technique to know. It covers anything you can do really with a block or a cut you can do with the stramazzone. It's just going to be faster but weaker. And there are times where that's great and there's times where it's not. And that's something you just need to practice and work out or go to classes to learn. But hopefully you've understood the principle. So really that takes us to the end of the material. I'm going to have a look over the next couple of weeks at a longer form set out by Dall'Agocchie that has some interesting techniques in it that I think are worth covering. And then we'll be at the end of this series. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hopefully I've made some sense and haven't just waffled my way through it entirely. And until I see you, have a good week.